Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our first main stage session of the day. Welcome to the Open Economy. I'm delighted to be joined by Stefano Bacino, founder and CEO of Yapily, who will share with us his thoughts and vision on what the open economy means. Before I pass over to Stefano, if you do have any questions or comments for him, please share them in the chat. So let's get started, Stefano. I would love if you could give us or share with us your vision of how you would define the open economy.
Well, historically, the open economy was referred to as the ability for companies to trade freely with one another globally. Nowadays, open economy is a concept of giving freedom to user and company to use any service they want without any barrier. So the possibility for user to share their own data for their own benefit. And the possibility also for new business idea to exist without any barrier. And open banking is actually the first step in this direction, in the direction of open finance, and later on of a broader also open economy. And this has already affected more than 6,000 banks in Europe, but will soon affect thousands of more globally, causing a tectonic shift in financial services.
Great, thanks for that, Stefano. And you mentioned open banking. In your opinion, how far have we come with open banking? And crucially, what needs to happen in order for open finance to flourish?
Well, that will require a little bit more. So 2020 definitely has been a very important year for open banking. So many businesses have been forced into digital transformation, and they were pushed to look a different way to engage and serve their own customer. Just in the UK, for example, the Open Banking Implementation Entity confirmed that in September, there were already 2 million users benefiting from open banking. So this is a great step in the right direction. So I would say we came quite a long way. Also, there are already companies such as American Express, Intuit, and many bigger enterprises that are starting to embrace open banking. So as bigger players realize the true potential and continue to invest, many others will follow. Obviously, we are at the beginning of a long journey. So to see open banking flourish, first we have to see it almost like a product on which we have to iterate on what we have accomplished, but continue to improve. And it means both the ecosystem and the regulators working together to continuously improving the existing API. Also, we need to define new API, both open API and premium API. We have to think about making more data available in banking, but also starting opening other industry. So for example, like insurance, pension, utility. So this will set the path for a successful open banking in Europe, but we shouldn't stop here. So we have to make sure that the rest of the world see the benefit and learn from both our mistake and achievement. So they take the same open path. Ultimately, open economy benefits everyone, starting from user that will have better and fairer financial services, but also to the existing player that will have a new revenue stream, or a new player that will have the opportunity to innovate and create new products and services.
Great, yeah, thanks for sharing that. It sounds like it's a fantastic opportunity to both deliver better outcomes for consumers and businesses, but there's still quite a ways to go.
Absolutely.
So what does being open mean? Is it an entirely new way of doing things? Does it require a certain creativity to see beyond not just the usual way of doing things, but also with regards to the partnerships with those outside of the financial services sector?
Being open doesn't only mean introducing a new way of doing things. I think most importantly means introducing a new way of thinking about financial services, a more connected financial services to the rest of the world, and also with a higher purpose. So the objective should be improving people's life. So being open will allow for new services to exist, and it really excites me to think about what we will be able to power at the intersection of open banking, open insurance, open pension, open utilities. I don't know what will be possible in the future, but I'm very curious and impatient to see.
It sounds like you have to really approach this with an open mind in that case.
Absolutely.
And during the course of the day, we will be, of course, discussing the opportunities as well as the challenges that open finance presents for financial services, the financial service industry and beyond. What are some of the things that you find most exciting about the opportunity and thinking about this new landscape?
Oh, well, where do I start? So Yapily wants to make every company a fintech company. So embedding financial services in other products excites me a lot because this will improve financial well-being of people and businesses. It will also accelerate financial inclusion. Let's not forget that there are almost 2 billion people that still have no access to financial services, and therefore they are not in a position to improve their own life. From a banking perspective as well, I'm very excited about the transformation that we can bring. We could almost think about saving 1% of global transaction, saving that can be passed on to customer. Take example, last week it was Black Friday. Just in the UK, there were 4.7 billion spent on Black Friday alone. 1% means 57 million pounds we could have saved in financial transaction, and money that we could pass on to everyone. So there are a lot of things that excite me in this space.
So picking up on what you said, and that at one example of where significant sums could be saved for consumers or businesses, can you tell us a little bit about the how? How would that happen? How would you? What opportunity does open finance create in order to make that happen?
So obviously, the one example I just gave was more on the payment side, where we know. Card fees are well known to always be between 1% and 2%. So with open banking, you actually initiate a wire transfer. So we have the opportunity of bringing the concept of free instant payment in a world where merchants have been paying 1-2% on average. So there, the benefit is tangible and immediate. Open finance, more in general, the benefit comes from multiple perspectives. The first one is that lowering the barrier to entry and allowing for more competition will allow, will actually push existing player to offer better services and cheaper services to everyone. So everyone will ultimately benefit. So bringing competition is definitely one. And the second one is actually the creation of new services completely bespoke to the end user that at the moment are not even possible.
Great. Thanks for that, Stefano. And thinking about that opportunity, obviously we touched a little bit on, in your opening comments, on the work yet still to be done. What are some of the challenges or barriers that remain, both for the established institutions and for startups looking to shake up the industry and bring more of that competition you described?
So at the moment, I would say there are three main challenges for anyone that want to benefit from this space. So the first one is to understand what's really possible and what's not. Distinguish what's really open banking API from what is just noise. A lot of companies are out there writing the buzzword of open banking, but not actually API first or API only company like us. So first, understanding the art of possible and removing the noise. Second, understand also what it means to connect to hundreds or thousands of banks and what would imply for their organization. Most of the company would realize that this is almost an impossible task and they need to partner with someone focused on that. Finally, it's important to understand the regulatory perimeter in which this company will be operating. So in summary, to benefit from open banking, people have to understand what's noise and what's not, and understand that it's a hugely fragmented space. And this is actually where Yapily is playing a role. We want to take care of this fragmentation and noise so that the customer can just focus on the product and benefit from everything that open banking can offer.
So in that sense, you can provide the tools both to incumbent institutions and startups to make this all happen.
Absolutely. That's why we exist. We want to remove the technical barrier for anyone that want to benefit from open banking. Incumbent, newcomers, and we want to do it as a invisible technology enabler. We are existing to serve our customer.
Thanks for that. And let's turn for a moment to the issue of data, right? Which is really what's powering open banking, open finance, the open economy. The issues around data, protection, governance, ethics, will also feature in many conversations across the day, no doubt. How do you think that consumers and businesses can be brought on the journey to an open economy whilst feeling both protected and fairly treated?
Well, obviously it's fundamental that consumers are protected. They need to be educated on data rights. They need to clearly understand how their data will be used in every single service and product linked to open banking, because we're talking about very sensitive data. And at Yapily, we see data as a mean to offer our client a better service, a way to improve their life, but not to, as very often you say in Silicon Valley, to make them the product, which means we actually do not resell our clients' data. From a company perspective, so everyone in the ecosystem has to put a strong emphasis on security. So it has to be part of everyone's DNA, making sure that security is at the core foundation of a company, protect the consumer, protect our clients, and ultimately protect our company as well.
And do you think, I mean, perhaps you can share a little bit of your view. I mean, obviously, Yapily as a company embraces all of those objectives around protection, governance, and ethics. How, because so much of the success of open banking and open finance relies on consumer trust. How do you think that the industry as a whole can best address those issues? You know, we can rely on individual players doing the right thing, but do you think there are missing pieces in terms of driving that greater consumer trust, which will lead to greater consumer uptake?
I think consumer trust is something that will come over time. It's not going to be a big bang effect. Most of the technical revolution we have seen in the last 30, 40 years, they were gradual. So behavioral change take time. When the user will start seeing the benefit of open banking, and they will start to see big players introducing new offering, using open banking, little by little, they will start to have the trust. So from an ecosystem perspective, regulator and company, they both have to make sure they do their best to protect a user. So this will avoid any breach or security issue. So we make sure that we maintain the reputation of open banking. And then from a behavioral change, I think it will be a slow change, but as the user see the tangible benefit of it, either from a payment perspective, so seeing lower prices when they buy something on an e-commerce platform, or from a tax perspective when everything is done automatically for them, or from a, let's say, saving perspective when an app helps them use their past to build a better future. So over time, the trust will come.
So trust is built through positive experience and good outcomes.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you touched there, Stefano, on some really interesting opportunities where things can happen much easier for the customer, whether it's tax, and you use the example of payments. presumably that kind of broadens out the scope of, and this is more thinking about the open economy beyond the, parameters of financial services. Do you see this as kind of evolving into, you mentioned the word ecosystem, into a new ecosystem of partners and providers?
Yes, as I was mentioning before, as we go from banking into finance and later into the economy, it will become almost like an all-to-all connectivity play where every company can connect to one another and start building new services together. So yes, I see the ecosystem broadening little by little. So banking, we start connecting to pension, and then utility, and then health. So yeah, the ecosystem will be slowly growing and then become an all-to-all model.
And in your comments, Stefano, you mentioned a slow evolution, or, this is kind of a progressive evolution rather than a revolution or revolution. Can you share with us some of your vision? Like, how fast will this happen? What will be the big change that we'll see over financial services in the next, say, 5 years?
So I think next year already we will see a significant change. This year has been a particular year from many perspectives, from COVID and Brexit perspective. This affected small, big, medium company. So I think 2021 already will see mass adoption of open banking. As I was saying, just in the UK, we had 2 million people using open banking in September. So now, if we multiply it across Europe, we will start seeing open banking as a let's say, something used en masse. In the next 5 years, there will be two, let's say, aspects. In Europe, we know the regulator is already looking into PSD3, and by 2024-25, we are going to see potentially other industry opening up. So we are starting to go into open finance already. And globally, there are 50 plus countries that are already embracing an open banking framework. We know Australia is live. Brazil is going to be live next year, but there is Canada, Mexico, Japan, so many other jurisdictions that will soon have an open banking framework. So in the next 5 years, we will see the first steps of open finance in Europe, but also a maturity of open banking globally.
That's really interesting. And thank you for kind of touching on that global view. So it sounds like you think the direction of travel across many jurisdictions will be towards a model that's far more open.
Absolutely. And the good thing is that Europe has been pioneering. And I always say that we are lucky that the regulator was so visionary. The European regulator was so visionary.
And finally, Stefano, as we only have a few minutes left, I wanted to touch on the question of culture, of the way that institutions are used to working and the way that they're organized. Do you think that they will be able to adapt internally in terms of their culture to enable them to make the most of open banking, open finance, and ultimately an open economy?
Yeah, absolutely. And what excited me the most about open banking when I first heard about it is the fact that financial services generate 4.5 trillion revenue a year, but it has huge barrier to entry. So I saw in open banking the opportunity of lowering this barrier and allow for innovation. And this is actually why I created the company. I think incumbents will have to shift their mindset and have more of a tech mindset, understanding that it's not about always protecting what they have, but very often is about embracing new way of doing things. I am sure that most of the companies that exist today will still exist in 10 years in an open finance world. Simply the revenue will come from different product, different service, an evolved version of themselves.
Great. Thanks for that, Stefano. And thank you for sharing your vision and your thoughts about what it means to be in an open economy. And for everyone listening and watching, please don't forget to post any comments or questions for Stefano in the chat. You can also find Stefano and the Yapily team on the platform across the day, whether in the expo area, or you can get in touch with them in the chat or send them a message on the People tab. They will also be leading an interactive session later today looking at how open finance will take off. But for now, thank you again to Stefano, and stay with us on the main stage because next up is our morning debate, Competition in an Open World. Thanks again, Stefano.
Thank you, Lisa.